everybody. Welcome to another episode. I'm Mike Monticello.
I'm Jennifer Stockberger.
I'm Joe Veselak.
So buckle your seatbelts, folks, because you're in for one heck of a show. Because, well, first of all, we got Joey and Jenny. And anytime you got Joey and Jenny, it's going to be a good show. But also because the car we're talking about today is the 2023 Nissan Z. Now, eagle-eyed viewers will know that we've already discussed the new Z once on the podcast. But that was a version that we rented from Nissan with an automatic transmission. The one we're talking about today is the one we bought for our test program with a manual transmission.
Yep.
And I'm looking right at you, Joey. I don't know why.
Why? I like manuals.
Yeah,
but
your Mustang's a manual.
it is. Not a good one either, but yeah.
So the one we bought for our test program is a 2023 Nissan Z Performance. And it's the mid-level. And the sport model, which is the base model, starts at just under $41,000. The one we got has hardly any options other than like a floor mat package, which
Floor
is actually
mats that are optional is never
but
a
they're
good
actually,
thing.
but it's a really, we'll get into the floor mats later. They're actually really nice. And with the $1,025 destination charge, the total price of our test car is $52,125. So Jen and Joey, I mean, it feels like the Z's been gone for years, but really it's only been a few years. It's just that the last time the 370Z was updated was 2009 was its last full redesign. So the fact that we do have a new Z is actually a pretty big deal. And before we get into like the driving impressions and everything, Jen, just give us an overview of what is really new with the new Z.
Right. So we use the word reincarnation. It's the reincarnation of the Z. And you're right. There was no 21 or 22 models, but the last redesign, 2009. So rear wheel drive still, now 400 horsepower from a 3-liter twin turbo V6. You got to say that with some gusto. And that's a significant increase over even the last 370Z, which was 332 horsepower, even 350 for the Nismo version. So it's quite a jump in horsepower. People said, it starts at around 39,000. So people were saying $100 per horsepower for that base sport trim. That's a lot of car for the money. As you said, Mike, 51,000, maybe not quite as much car for the money,
right, but
still a big jump in horsepower. At 39,000, it still undercuts the base Toyota Supra, for example. So with value.
It's 2-liter with its turbo 4-cylinder.
Right.
It undercuts the Supra with the turbo 4-cylinder. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Right. So rear-wheel drive, 3 trim levels, but still pretty much Z-ish.
Yeah.
No 370, no 350. It's just the Z. I said, like Zorro, just Z. Like that.
That's it. Just like that.
That's our Jen.
Just like that.
I'm in a good mood now, but as you listen to me, I'm going to sound pretty curmudgeonly as I go through this car.
Well, there's a little forewarning.
Forewarning. I get a little
out.
cranky, but yeah.
So it's kind of funny because the Z, it's kind of like new, but it's not really all new. They told us that it actually uses the same platform as the 370Z.
Immediately it's a Z.
Yeah, and the 6-speed manual is essentially carryover. The 9-speed automatic is sourced from the Titan and Frontier pickups.
Yes, that's funny.
And but they did go from hydraulic steering to electric power steering. And there's 2 components. One of them's kind of funny and one of them's kind of a big deal. They have a telescoping steering wheel now, which is okay. That actually is important for your driving position. And guess what? A second cup holder.
Oh, man.
But like we said, the reason why they did this, it's not like a brand new from the Z's ground up. That's how they were able to get it at such a low cost, to be able to undercut the Supra with its turbo 4-cylinder, which I think is pretty impressive that they were able to do that. So those are the mechanical aspects. But Joey, I mean, the car is pretty exciting to look at. Tell us a little bit about what you really find distinctive about the new Z.
Yeah, so I've always liked how the Z looks, the design of it, exterior design. And on this one, it's cool because they have a lot of retro throwbacks to the original Datsun 240. Like you'll get the rear taillights like in a 3-piece section, like tri-glow thing going on there. And there's also the Z emblem, the circular emblem on the rear D-pillar, which is reminiscent of the original 240, had that on there. And then there's a bumped out hood. You can tell it's a Z from a mile away.
Absolutely. I love the rear styling more than the front, but the side into the rear. I just think looks so cool. I mean, I would just, when it was parked in my driveway, I would just go out and look at it just because I thought it was so
dreamy,
so cool looking. Yeah, dreamy.
So dreamy.
Okay, so Joe, let's get into the driving part of it. And I don't know where there's some forewarning from Jen here, but let's start with you, Joe, and let's talk about the big deal, right? The 400 horsepower twin turbo V6. What's it like to drive that thing?
Yeah, so the power delivery is really nice in it. It's the best way to put it, has long legs, long gearing. So you actually, that power is really linear and it draws out and comes on really nicely and it really revs out and sounds great. So yeah, I think the power is excellent in the car and an improvement upon what it used to be in the past.
Yeah, it's actually, in a way, it's kind of amazing that they were able to do this much power for this price.
Yeah, and I love the VQ, the 3.5 to the 3.7. Always loved that motor, how it sounded and everything. And I was curious to see what I'd think of this, but so far, pretty impressed. I like it.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
No, I was just going to say, and this is probably where I'm going to end agreeing with you that I do think the power delivery is really good.
We just started the show. How
I know,
can you already
but
start?
But it's so much that we had a couple misty, rainy mornings when I had it. If you even, in my modest driving, that rear end will break loose fairly easily in the wet.
Right. So I noticed that same thing. Yeah. With the electronic stability control fully on, it will allow for some tail out action, which I really enjoy. I thought that was really interesting that they allow for that. Of course, you can turn it fully off as well. With that, I was just talking about the power. We get in some of these cars, and I know everyone around here likes the Subaru BRZ and the Toyota GR86, but I mean, they just don't have much power. And you have to downshift literally. Like if you want to make a 2-lane passing zone to get around some slower traffic, you got to literally shift down like 2 gears, right? This thing, you could be in 4th gear at like 3,000 RPM, just floor it, and the thing just goes. Yeah. I mean, it's just an impressive amount of power.
Yeah, it has really decent torque, so you're not having to drop a gear all the time when you really need it.
Right.
So so you want a manual, but you don't really want to shift it. Is that what you're telling me?
Wow, I like it. She's feisty today. She's feisty. I don't always want to shift.
Okay, just asking.
Calling you lazy.
Okay, that's a fair point. I hadn't thought about it that way.
Just saying.
Well, sometimes, actually, let me put it this way. No. When I want to do a passing zone,
I hear you.
It's potential danger situation there. Right. Like, if you're like just barely going faster than the car that you're getting around and the passing zone's ending or a car is coming towards you, then I want to get around that zone quickly. On a back road, I love shifting.
So let me ask you though.
Yes, please.
Would you probably downshift anyway? You don't have to. I hear what you're saying.
I probably would. But I just for testing wise, I said, I wonder what would happen if I just floored it right here.
Great. Yep.
But before we get to the gearbox, which I do want to talk about, I feel like you don't love the sound. Didn't you say you don't? There's something about the turbo sound or something you don't like about it, right?
So I don't get it. I don't get why anybody likes turbo whine. Just the word whine. It's not a very positive word. So I don't like it in a big truck. When people are like, listen to that turbo wind up, and it's just that high pitched, annoying.
Isn't that more like whistling or whooshing?
Yeah, but it's so high. It's like, is there a mosquito in my ear? That's kind of, I don't like turbo whine. I don't like the noise of turbo whine. And again, we're jumping to noise, but this has a lot of road noise too. Again, Joey said, you say you're sitting nearly on the rear axle. Yeah. You know it because you're getting a lot of road noise in that cabin. I don't get the turbo whine, and this has plenty when you're
so that's kind of interesting. And I'd love to get your input too, Joey, is that when I first was driving the car, I thought I was hearing gear whine. From the gearbox. And I do think it is much more so the engine. I think it's more engine than the turbos. But there is some kind of odd,
if it's drive line, whatever
there is
it is,
some kind of odd
train.
kind of whininess to it, but it doesn't bother me. And I thought the whole thing actually sounded pretty good.
We said enough turbo sounds are present to excite, but not annoy. And I guess that's where my conversion, they annoy.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
For me.
It reminds me that I have 400 horsepower. So
Exactly.
All the time. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about like we said, this is the 6-speed manual. We rented the automatic before. Jen, what did you think of this gearbox?
I think it's clunky. I think it's clunkier.
So she is disagreeing with us on everything that she possibly
kind of
can.
am. I'm going to be that
No,
negative
we
Nelly.
we want you.
I noticed you wrote negative Nelly.
yeah, full
Are
resistance.
you looking at my notes?
It's clunkier.
Yeah.
It's definitely clunkier when you look at the manuals we've had
Yes,
of late.
absolutely.
The Civic, the GTI, the BRZ. This is just clunkier. And I missed shifts. A
that's operator
notable
error.
firm push over to get to reverse.
Yeah.
I had to keep checking. Am I in sixth or am I in reverse? Because you go over
You
to the
don't
right
want to
and down.
confuse those two.
No, and I would have to say, am I going to move forward or rearward? So I just find it much more clunky. It also, Joey, I asked you, it has this rev matching selection that you can make, and not just on this car. But by the time that it flared and did your rev matching, I was not shifted yet. It was just kind of wasted on me. It was just another source of noise.
Right. So the rev matching being you're downshifting,
right.
and for people who don't know how to heel and toe downshift, it will blip the throttle for you, so you don't have to you don't have to worry about trying to blip the gas yourself.
Correct. Again,
but it didn't actually work properly for you. Is what you're not well enough.
It
for
was
you.
so quick that I was too late. Maybe I don't shift quickly enough. But again, I'm looking at all these aspects of why a manual is engaging. And wouldn't you want to do that heel and toe yourself?
Absolutely.
And I know you can deselect that option.
Yeah,
but
I think I can't explain why people don't learn how to heel and toe. So that's a subject for another show.
Yeah.
Okay. When Monty gets deep inside people's brains.
Okay.
But I mean, I've been to track days where people didn't know how to heel and toe, and which is crazy that someone's trying to do a track day with a car and not with a manual and not heel and toe. But Joey, I want to hear your opinions on the gearbox, because I think I agree with what Jen's saying, but just I look at it a little different way than she does.
Yeah, so
And you drive differently than me. Both of you do.
yeah, I agree as well. I think you just need to be a little more assertive with it, and the harder you kind of drive this car, some of that stuff goes away a little bit. It's not perfect. The GTI is better, the Civic's better. They're all way more slick, but the gates are well defined. I didn't really have too much of an issue with anything other than reverse maybe now and then, which is a little frustrating, but I can live with it because
I'd call it bulky, not, what did you call it?
I called it clunky.
I call it bulky, meaning
yeah.
the 2, 3, and the 4, 5 shifts, it's not as fluid as you.
Right.
I didn't miss any.
Right.
And I know people are going to fact check and say, no, you missed. How did they know if I missed a shift or not? I didn't miss a shift. But you know what's funny?
He missed
is
the shift. I've seen it.
Reminds me so much of the last Z, which is
And maybe
carryover.
that's
And I didn't
part
love
of the
that. I didn't
appeal.
love that gearbox either. But anyway, enough about gearboxes. Let's move. It's not perfect, but I would still take it over the automatic every day of the week.
Yep.
So Joey, I mean, when you talk about the Z, one of the things it's always been known for since it first came out in the late 60s was handling. And how is this one as far as handling?
Yeah, so far I think it's just as good, if not better. I think it's better. We'll see once you get to push it around the track, and that really starts to, that'll really separate things, I think, whether or not if there's big differences or it's the same. But I always like how it handled. It's always been well balanced, and on the roads this is well balanced. I like the steering, and I think it has a lot of potential.
Yeah, quite often when an automaker switches from hydraulic power steering to electric, usually we have very negative things to say. But I thought Nissan actually did a really good job with how crisply this steering turns into corners, and of course it has hardly any body roll. Great grip from the tires. So I mean, it's a fun backroad car. But what about the ride?
This is curmudgeon, Jen.
Okay.
It rides really firmly. Like,
Okay.
I guess
It's
this
a
car is
sports
just
car.
livability. This isn't a car I would live with. I mean, so it actually absorbs single disturbances relatively well
Yeah.
for a sports car. But you get a constant jiggle. You get the micro texture.
Yeah, it's busy.
So when you say a backroad car, no.
Okay,
not a backroad car.
super smooth backroad car.
There
I'm
you
putting
go. There you
caveats
go.
now
There
on.
you go.
You have to search
Anyway.
out that super smooth back road.
There you go.
It's a compromise. I feel like the Z, or the 350Z, when it first came out, it rode like a brick.
Yeah.
And then was stiff. We complained about it. They softened it up.
Yep.
That one rode much better. And then I think they bounced back and forth to stiffening it up, and then they'd back off, make it a
They
little
went
more
too stiff and then came back.
Then went in the opposite direction to make it more civilized. this feels like it's the best blend so far for me. But yeah, it's tolerable.
Yeah.
Nothing, you're always going to be compromising ride when you're dealing with a sports car. Right. And I'm willing to, deal with a rougher ride if it's worth it, if the performance and holds up. If it does, I think it's a great option.
Yeah, same with me. I thought it was tolerable. Definitely, there's no question. It's tense on the highway. But most of the time, I wasn't thinking about it. It was only when I hit those rougher sections of road that I noticed it. We already talked a really, really loud interior. I don't think it's much quieter than the last one, to be honest with you. It's still very boomy in there. We discussed that. It's like a cacophony of noise. Is that a word?
That
cacophony?
is a word.
I wouldn't know that.
Okay, it might be a word.
Birds, I've usually.
So let's talk about the driver's seat. I mean, that's obviously where you're going to spend all your time. Jen, is this the most comfortable seat you've ever sat in, or talk to me?
So this is the self-deprecating part of the podcast, in that I almost think that these sports car seats sometimes are developed more with men in mind. So, and I say that because the cushion bolstering, not the back. I usually fit the back really well,
okay,
but the cushion bolstering
the bottom,
is narrow enough that my wider butt actually sits on top of the bolsters, not in them. So my left thigh and is literally not very comfortable ever because it's on top of the bolster, not inside of it. I'm suspecting you two tall, thin men are loving this seat.
No, that's the first time anyone's ever called me tall, first of all. We'll take the thin any day of the week. Honestly, the seat, that is one of the worst aspects for me. It just doesn't work for me. First of all, it's very hard, which I could put up with, except that you had a problem with the bottom cushion. I have a problem with the seat back. It's too narrow. So I'm kind of more like on the bolsters than in. I think it's because I'm so like, my lats are so jacked up.
Yeah,
is that what these things are?
Yeah.
Actually, there's nothing there. So my rib cage is oddly weird and wide. So
jacked up. That's another word that I don't.
It just doesn't work for me. Joey, how about you?
I'm pretty jacked up.
Does any of us actually fit in this car?
I fit decent in it. I'd say maybe I agree with it being a little firm. The seat's hard, but I don't have the issues with the seat back. I fit pretty good in it. It's got good bolstering to keep you in the seat, especially this thing's going to be handling on rails and you're going to be falling out of it.
Exactly.
If you don't have bolstering like that, but it fits me well.
I'm going to tell you this may sound really nitpicky, but that whole long nose design when you're kind of tucked into the pedals, a couple things. So I love the extra telescope. You mentioned that at the beginning, but the reach to the pedals is fine for me driving it, but to start it, I have to have the clutch all the way in. I have to almost lay back a little bit to get it far enough so I can use the push button start to get it started. And the dead pedal, I say, you're driving in a manual, that left leg and foot are much more active.
Yeah.
So I will tend to use the dead pedal instead of tucking my leg back like I would in an automatic.
Yes.
I can't reach it. Only my widow toes reach it.
I hate to admit it, but I could reach it, but it's like angled forwards more than I would like it, and also it's a little narrow for a performance car. It just doesn't. It's not as good as I think it should be. But taller people, it's probably absolutely fine.
Yes,
I agree with you. I find myself searching for the pedals feel a little deep, but
since we're talking about the seat, let's talk about some of the oddest seat controls ever.
Yeah.
I mean, they're on the side of the seat, just like they were in the 350 and 370Z. So for the driver, they're on the right side of the seat.
Right.
And so first of all, I never remembered that they're there.
Right.
And second, my leg is covering them up. So it just seems like such an odd design, but maybe we can think of it as a retro Z thing and let's just live with it. And
we'll blame it on that.
Yeah.
But to me, that I keep going for the left side of the seat, reaching for controls that aren't there, no matter how long I drive this car.
Yeah.
Right.
And part of that is our switching, but
or switching back and forth.
I really like when things of like function, be it climate or seat controls, are in a similar location. Give me my headlights, my climate, my seat controls.
You mean you want all automakers to design the cars to be exactly the way you want them?
Well, true, yes, but also intuitively designed together. I shouldn't have to do my lumbar over here on the left and my fore aft and my recline
the common
over here on the right.
Or Mercedes, seat controls up here, lumbar down here, further seat controls in the touchscreen. So this isn't anywhere near as bad as that. We'll have to take a win where we can. What did you think about the interior quality? Same old Z as before, which is good
I
but not
didn't
great.
see anything exemplary. It's a functional, not fancy car for sure. And again, you're at a reasonable price point.
Yeah.
Well, relatively.
So
$51,000.
let's talk about active safety and driver assistance features, Jen. What it comes standard with, and what maybe is missing.
Yeah. So all of the big ones that we know consumers like: blind spot warning, rear cross traffic warning, and the ones that are so important: AEB with pedestrian detection, etc. And I think it's worth noting AEB with pedestrian detection standard, even with the manual. We've had other manufacturers who have manual cars who say, AEB doesn't really work. And I was thinking about this because what happens when that AEB kicks in is you're going to stall.
Right.
Because you're not on the clutch. And I was thinking about the old days, what that meant. So say the AEB activates, you avoid hitting the car in front of you. In the old days, you might have to put the clutch in, re-key backwards, and
true.
restart. Now, it's just a push button start. You just put the clutch in and hit, well, if you can reach it, put the clutch in and hit the button and you restart.
You're right.
So it's actually a simpler implementation and restart without a key than it might have been in the old days if you stalled with a key.
And if the option is potentially hit a car in front of you or not hit a car in front of you, but your car stalls, I'm going to go with the latter.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Even, yes. Absolutely. And the restart is quick if you do need to quickly move ahead because the car moves ahead or something.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So to wrap up, Joey, kind of where you are right now before the car goes through the test program, how are you feeling about this new Z? Are you liking what you're seeing?
Yeah. I mean, I like it a lot. Excited to test it. It's exciting to get a car that's a manual sports car. We've been seeing so many EVs and things that are kind of not as enthusiast based, Right. So I'm really excited.
And Negative Nelly, how about you?
It is not for me. That's
not for
just
you.
it. I get everything
Do
you're
you
saying
enjoy
about
some aspects of it?
Not many.
Okay, so you don't enjoy when you say get out onto a faster moving road and you just floor it and start going through the gears. That's not exciting to you?
I can do that with another car that I like better.
Okay.
With another car that I like
we
better.
appreciate your honesty. And also, if you don't like the gearbox, then that's
part of it.
Ruining part of it for you.
Right.
I personally think in a lot of ways, it's very similar to the old Z, still a stiff ride, super noisy interior, okay, but not great shifter. But the new engine is fantastic. And I love driving this car so much because of that engine. And the handling is fantastic too.
Yeah.
Not in the wet. Be careful.
We have lots more information up on our website, consumerreports.org, including a full first drive. So check that out. And of course, stay tuned
We'll see what the track handling is all
to see
about.
what Joey ends up with numbers wise and what our whole group ends up with,
see
when
how
we
fast it really is.
come up with all of the numbers from all the different, 50 plus tests that we do here. So make sure you stay tuned to consumerreports.org for our full road test results. So now let's move on to our audience question of the week.
Video.
Folks, don't forget to send those questions, comments, 30-second video clips to talkingcars@icloud.com. That's the best way to reach out and talk to us, okay? And our push, our constant push for we love your video seems to be working because, as you said, we have a video today.
Yes, love it.
And it comes from Claudia in Surrey, British Columbia, Canada. So let's see what Claudia is asking us today.
Hi, Talking Cars. Greetings from beautiful British Columbia. I have a two-parter question. First part is regarding engine block heaters. I'm going to be moving to Saskatchewan later this year, where of course it gets much colder in winter. I've heard conflicting advice. Some people say that on a new car like my 2019 Mazda CX-5, I don't need one because it's pretty new and it uses synthetic oil. Other people have said, oh no, definitely get one. So what is your guys' advice on this? And the second part of my question is in regards to fuel stabilizer. I'm going to be going away a little bit before my move and want to put fuel stabilizer in my car. Now, usually I take a regular gasoline, and I was wondering, is premium more stable? Should I get that for the one fill-up where I put the stabilizer in my car? Thank you.
So I know a little something about engine block heaters. And of course, this is a two-part question. So we're going to go to you, Joey, first. But my parents thought it would be a great idea when I was a kid to lug me and my brother and sister up to our family cabin in Ontario, Canada for Christmas. one winter for a week. And, you know, it was like minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit, which I don't know what that is in Canadian or Celsius, but it's really
degrees.
cold. And, you know, 2 feet of snow, 3 foot drifts. Anyway, so we had to leave our car out at this ranger station. And luckily, the park rangers let us plug an engine block heater because I don't think that old Volvo wagon was ever going to start in those cold temps. But Claudia has a newer car, Joey. She doesn't have an old clunker Volvo wagon. So do you think when she moves to Saskatchewan, she's going to need an engine block heater, or what's the deal with that?
Yeah, so it kind of depends. She needs to look at, she mentioned synthetic oil. She needs to really look at the weight oil she's running and then looking in the manual and seeing what the temperature range is that oil's weighted for, and, you know, kind of go from there. I think what I would do is also you reach out to a local dealership in the area, Mazda dealer, that's dealing with these cars in this climate, a ton of cars, and they're dealing with it all the time. So they probably will, I think that's where I would start.
Okay. That's a great idea.
And I can't imagine that a lot of Canadians don't stay there for those harsher winters.
Yeah.
So
you live where you live, right?
Where you live.
And then for the second part, Jen, I'm gonna go to you. You know, it's funny, the you know, regular versus premium. Mm-hmm. We kind of had something interesting like that when I lived in Southern California. We could only get 91 octane premium instead of 93. We can get 93 here, and you know, my car and motorcycle track day buddies would, you know, they called the 91 crap fuel. They were so mad because their thought was it degrades more over time, the 91 versus the 93. So what about regular versus premium? First of all, did my friends even know what they were talking about, Jen? And does Claudia, should she put premium in before she leaves the car for a long time?
Right. Well, when you were talking, if I'm understanding, the 91 versus the 93 was about performance, not about
No, it was about that, you know,
storing your bike.
Because if you have a track day car or a motorcycle, you don't drive or ride it all the time, right? So you end up having that fuel sit, and especially with carburetors, which some of my motorcycles are carbureted, that's a problem. So that's what they were complaining about.
Right. So I admit I had to reach out to Mike and John and ask some of these questions.
Not this Mike, the smarter Mike.
The smarter Mike. Yeah, Mike Crossan. But anyway, essentially, their take is that the octane does not matter. They're both going to degrade over time. And the additional octane 93 doesn't necessarily... Or 91 degrade any slower than regular fuel. And then, yes, and even Mike said, if it's a couple of months she's away, everything will probably be fine with or without the fuel stabilizer.
Okay.
But it can't hurt. So
the fuel stabilizer.
Can't hurt. Put it in there. No problem. He said, though, he went on to say she was going to be away for much longer. I mean, if you're talking a year or more that you're going to have that car, the real answer is drain the fuel out of it.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to leave any fuel sitting in there for a super long time.
Just siphon it right out of the tank.
Siphon it right out of the tank.
Because people do that all the time.
Yeah.
And also maybe put it on lifts so that the tires aren't on the ground.
You can all of that stuff.
I'm half kidding.
Flat spotting.
I'm half kidding. But if you leave your car sitting for a year, it's going to be flat spotted.
At the end of the year.
Anyway, all right. Well, that's good information. See, I learned something too. I wasn't sure. That's what we always thought was that the 93 was so much better than 91. And it turns out the 87 and 91 is not even, as far as stability, is fine. That's going to do it for this episode. If you want to learn more about the cars and the topics we talked about, you can click on the links in the show notes. Don't forget to send those questions, comments, 30-second video clips to talkingcars@icloud.com. Yes. This episode was produced by Dave Abrams and edited by Anatoly Shumsky and Andrew Belize. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all next week.